I was muted. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome back. So good to see you. Hey, Jen in Georgia. Hi, I have new socks on. Hi, Gypsy. Crime. Hi, Robin. Sassy. Linda. Michelle Scott. Sharon Pete. Good to see you. Sassy, thank you for contributing to our goal tonight. Sunshine, hello. Hello, Michelle Scott. Really, hi, Karen Powers. Hello, everyone. So good to hi, Robin. Becky, Busy Mama, Maui-san. Good to see you. We are going to be discussing Sebastian Rogers today. Doug Bishop, the person some of you wanted me to contact regarding Ford's Pond, which I have put out a message to. He was on Break the Case today with Jen Coffindaffer, and we are going to look at that show. I've only seen part of it, not all of it. I had stopped and made some dinner, so we are going to watch it as a family. If you are not familiar with Doug Bishop, he was if you've heard of Adventures with Purpose, they pulled Kylie Rodney's car, located it, and pulled it out of Prosser Lake. That is our bonus time today if you want to watch how they tracked, located, and pulled Kylie Rodney's car out, plus another cold case that they had found a car from years before, and the family tells us it ends with the family sharing how grateful they are. Just really good, amazing work from Doug Bishop and team. And he is on with Jen Coffindaffer tonight. Couldn't be more thrilled to be able to watch that show as a family. I so appreciate you all being here. I know there's lots of places you could be on YouTube today. There always are. And so I'm always so grateful when you tune in. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. I want to thank my superheroes from our last show. Let me just make sure, because I want to say hello to hi, Michelle Carter. Hi, Show Poodles. Hi, Caroline Miller. Hi, Ty Baylux. Hi, Gypsy, Rusty Pipes, Roxy R, Purple Sneakers. Hello. Caroline, I'm going to get back to you in email. I'm just wrapping up school now. This is it this week. Hi, Holly S. And then I will get back to you, my friend. Hi, Sue Brewer. Whispering Winds. So good to see all of you. And we have superstars, of course, superheroes from last show. I want to make sure that they get thanked. And that is Noelle was our big superhero last night. And Jen in Georgia, Elizabeth, Susan Furman, Mama's World, Whispering Winds, I Will Call You Out, Sister Krista, love that name, Lisa B. Always, and Tracy Delahanty. Thank you, my superheroes. We really appreciate you. We are running 10 for 10 tonight, and we are hoping to get to Doug Bishop. What I want to share with you first and start our show is I have been so impressed with Nova Scotia, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Nova Scotia, the way they are updating the Lily and Jack Sullivan case. Even when they can't give investigative information, they're kind of letting us know what they're doing, just keeping awareness out there, interest in the public. And it is, I know we all appreciate it because we've been on the other side of lack of information. Hi, Beth. Hi, Funny Chess, Zipper, Miriam M. Hello. So I wanted to share with you all something, and then I'm going to compare it to Sumner County before we jump into the show from Jen Coffindaffer, Break the Case. Subscribe to her if you haven't. She's wonderful. And she has guest on Doug Bishop, whom I have reached out to about Ford's Pond, but I know he's busy. But I also asked him for a recommendation to help us out. So let's go ahead, and I want to show you their amazing way they communicate using X to their community. This is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on X of Nova Scotia. They say right here it's not monitored 24/7. So for emergencies, call 911, and they give information here because they don't want people putting tips here. Okay, for instance, May 12th, correction. Correct spelling of Lily Sullivan's first name is Lilly, not Lily, as we previously included in our materials. See how they fixed that? Didn't take them 14 months. Okay, update. Man wanted on Canada-wide arrest warrant has been issued. They put out a news release. Okay, then what do? They give updates. RCMP near Civic 2275 of Northfield Road in Lower Northfield in relation to a wanted person investigation. Increased police presence as officers search for, and they tell people what's going on. If you're in this area, here's what we're doing. Okay, tell people to call in tips, please. And then it says update. The officers have located and safely arrested Richard Malkinis. They will be departing from the area shortly. I find this absolutely exemplary. News release. Deep Brook man facing child porn charges. Middleton man with child pornography. Missing person. Help us find Robert Fleet. They go in here and they give road closures. Southwest Nova Street Crime Enforcement, and they have a lot on the kids. There's just a lot going on there. Charges 2 people after executing search warrant. They let them know what they're doing, who they're arresting. They realize who they're there for. Road closures. Here's the children. Okay, a news release on the children. I put a video out on that this morning, so if you missed it, please go back and watch it. Okay, break-ins. Look at all of this that they're doing. And they give updates so their people know. They tell them, here, we're at a structure fire right now in Hammond's Plains. This intersection's closed. That's why you're going to see us there. Please avoid the area. Just unbelievable communication. Okay. Unbelievable communication by Sumner County. Or, I'm sorry, Canadian Mounties. It's really amazing. Let's go back here. Now I'm lost it. Okay. Now what I want to show you now is we are going to go to, stop sharing. Let me get back to my, did you know the Menendez brothers were resentenced to 50 years to life? They are now eligible for parole. They are now eligible for parole. And I will, not Sumner. That was a definite slip of the tongue, huh? I will definitely be sharing that with you. That'll be something we get into as well. Let me get sorry, I'm looking for there we go. This will be my easiest way to get it to you. Okay. Here is Sumner Counties. Are you seeing that with me? Let me see where you guys are. Okay, I know it's not as pretty, is it? Okay, tweets by Sumner County. Huh, it's not transferring over. Sorry. I'm going to have to, sorry about this. That's weird. It's not transferring to you. Hold on. Let me get it to share. There we go. I'll share it this way. This is Sumner County Sheriff's Office. And I would like to show you what they have regarding updates for their criminals and Sebastian. Weather, phone outages, keep your autos locked. There's been theft, even if it's in the garage. Deputy corrections. They're hiring. This is 2020 now. Okay. So they're not really using this to raise awareness for Sebastian. Wow. Okay. Let me show you another one. When I went to start to look for X to see if Sumner County had anything listed for Sebastian, they did not. And here's what I found on X. Let me tell you what. I will be, from what I'm reading here, kind of surprised come re-election time. They are not happy. Let's read it. You'd keep that, Jay. Yes. One sec. Look at this. I want to know what is a snuggle struggle. This is someone writing to Eric Craddock, and they tagged TBI. They tagged him. When you took over the big man's job, rest in peace, Eric Craddock, you held your hand up and swore to protect and serve. Did you forget about Sebastian? He's a member of your community. What the hell is going on? Say his name, Craddock. Can you say Sebastian? They are not happy out there. Eric Craddock, Sumner County Sheriff's Office. No leads or details to indicate Sebastian is not alive. So here is Vern Gilbert putting in an update. Reported by NC5, tracking canine track Sebastian. Oh, this is a year, and this is 15 months ago, to a nearby construction site. 14 hours ago, Sebastian has been failed by Eric Craddock in Sumner County. They are not competent or up to the job. So the last update they gave on here was March 12th, 2024, and it was shared. They are not competent or up to the job. They flawed investigations. To FBI, Sebastian deserves better. Sebastian Rogers' life matters. Listen to his father, Seth. Then TJ Jackson put, Eric Craddock is a disgrace and an embarrassment. Every time I see his picture, it disgusts me. Obviously, he is unable to perform any of his job duties. Craddock needs to resign immediately. He is an embarrassment to all police officers. Seth Rogers calls Sumner County Sheriff Eric Craddock a douchebag. And he does not feel that way anymore because the lines of communication are open. But let's see what they put Father Seth through in the beginning.
I'm tired of the incompetence of the people who are supposed to protect our kids. They're supposed to protect us. They're supposed to keep our community safe. And yet they don't. And nobody holds them accountable or responsible. And it's the community that's supposed to be holding them responsible. Right now, they're holding an election for some douchebag that doesn't even understand that I am missing my son. I just want to thank everybody for showing up.
And if that's not heartbreaking enough for you, that a father has to have that kind of anguish on top of his missing child because the sheriff wouldn't speak to him. We're going to be talking about this at the Members Live Saturday. Do not miss our Saturday reunion. It's going to be important. We're going to be talking about what we can do, where we can reach out, and how we can get some fire lit under his tushy, if need be. But I think above everything, even if he is on fire, he's going for it, I think we need all eyes watching. I really do, for accountability, because we went with almost a year of him saying nothing. So to put a father through that, shame on him. Sebastian is one of his own, and he has let him down. Do not reelect him unless he does right by Sebastian, Sumner County Sheriff's Office, Sumner County. That is my suggestion. Do not reelect a sheriff who does not serve and protect you. That is his duty. And this is my opinion. Let's get going. We are at Jen Coffindaffer. She has had Doug Bishop on today. Our bonus time is with Doug, watching him search for Kylie Rodney and locate her car in Prosser Lake and pull it out of there, plus another cold case. He does amazing work. I am too, Stephen. I agree with you 100. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. I agree, me either, Robin, but I'm still going to write some letters. That's right, Sumner County. Thank you, Gypsy. It could be your child next that your sheriff would not say their name, would not tell the community any updates, pretends he doesn't exist. There might be a really amazing investigation going on, but like Elijah Vu, the chief who was in charge of searching for him, even when they had nothing, he said, you're going to get at least a weekly update from me, and he held to it. He let the people know, we care, we're looking, we can't find anything, but we're out here, we're doing this, we're doing that. And that, in the very least, is what could be done for Sebastian from Sumner County. And if he's afraid of the cameras, then maybe he needs an information officer who will help share the information. So we'll get some addresses. Come to be at the family reunion this Saturday. It's going to be important. We're going to talk about advocacy for these children. Advocacy for the children. Hello, Joanne. Hello, everyone. Let's go ahead. This is credit to Jen Coffindaffer, break the case, and I have it ready. I just need to find it. 1 second. And she has Doug Bishop on, and they are discussing the state of the case with Sebastian Rogers. I saw several of you in the chat because I went in there and planned to watch, but I had to get us ready for this as well as grab something to eat real quick. So I'm going to be really watching the whole thing the first time with all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Please hit that thumbs up, and we are going to let me get to our presentation here. Sorry, I'm way back here. There we go. This is full credit to Jen Coffindaffer, break the case, FBI, retired FBI agent. I always tell you all, she's a valuable asset to our community, and she is. I know, Stephen, I feel real sad for Seth too today. When I saw that before I shared it with you all, it took me down, it took me back, and it took me to thinking completely unnecessary to do that to a parent who wants to know, especially in this day and age when we have so many parents who don't ever call the police to find out what happened. They don't care. But you have a parent who cares, and they weren't communicating with him. Travesty. We're going to write some letters. Hi, Forever Glow. Good to see you. It's been a while. Susanna Koizumi, Judy Hosey. Yeah, right, Beth. Open mouth. Oh, no, stop, please. Okay, let's get to it. I'm going to mute, but I will be coming in and out to stress some points. I haven't watched the whole thing, so I'm watching it with you. Mods, thank you for doing a great job. Welcome in, everyone. True Crimers, welcome to Break the
TBI and Sumner, and there should be some results that have come through this year.
Good for numbers, and it's good for coming in, and I don't want to say playing cleanup. I mean, sort of playing cleanup, like as in a batting order, coming and looking at what's done, and then hopefully hitting the home run at the end. Because
the same sort of not necessarily the subject part of it, but that carries over into Sebastian's case as well. The feds are heavily involved, which, I mean, are you ready to get into Sebastian's case? We're kind of talking about Kyra's case and And it kind of transpires and rolls naturally into Sebastian's case, which is the feds have been heavily involved, TBI in Sumner County. And it's very shocking that not much, I mean, some would say nothing has come from anything. Yeah, been very shocking that nothing has transpired all this time. And I say all this time because
That's terrifying to me to hear him say that. Hi, Governor Pincus. Hi, Smokey Joe. He says all of that this time and nothing has come for it. You all, that terrifies me. But you know what? When you look at the difference between what I just showed you with the dedication and the serious way they take care of what they're doing, their searches, keeping their people informed, letting people know what's going on, not letting flyers go 15 months with errors. They caught an error in a spelling and they're on it. They didn't just say, who cares? We'll let that go 15 months. Not our responsibility to change that. Like was done regarding Sebastian Rogers' missing persons flyer. Breaks my heart to hear him say they have virtually nothing. We need to call in the marshals.
it's 2024. It's modern technology. These anybody you can label a suspect. They're not rocket scientists. There were some missteps made. They should have been found already.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, we talk about it and we've been talking about it a lot over the last year. For those of you who don't know who Sebastian Rogers is, he's a young man. He was 15 years old when he went missing on February 25th, 2024 from his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee. The last person to see him was his mother, Katie Proudfoot. She was remarried to a man named Chris Proudfoot. Seth Rogers is Sebastian's father. He has searched relentlessly for Sebastian. It's taken a hard toll on him. I think a lot of people have mixed reviews about the Proudfoots, including me. I've had a lot of mixed reviews and, a lot of concern. At the end of the day, we've talked about it. There can only be 4 possibilities. Either he walked out of that house undetected and has never been found, or he never made it out of that house because of an accidental death, or he never made it out of that house because of an accidental homicide, or he made it out of the house and has since been abducted by a third party. So that's it, right? So Doug, where do you fall on this? Well, let's not pin you down to anything. Let's first talk about searching. A lot of the resources that were put into this. My question to you is, what would be your search parameter? And do you think that was pretty well followed by law enforcement in this case?
Everything that we do comes after we develop profiles. Every person that we look for, we develop a lost person behavior profile. That's the who, what, when, where, why of this individual that we're looking for, and it breaks down every dynamic of their life. Who were they? How old were they? Where did they hang out? Where did they go to school? Where did they work? Who was their lovers? What drugs did they do? Every dynamic of their life fits into this profile before we do anything, and then that determines the next steps taken in regards to a search. And it's that deep.
And that is coming not from a law enforcement agent. So when they have a missing person, they profile Sebastian. What is it? Who is he hanging around? What does he do? What are his likes? What's his normal behavior? All of that. Then they profile everyone close around them. Who, what, when, where, why. I hope that was done. I'm praying that was done. I'm trying at this point to have faith that was done by law enforcement. Now, as we learned in Nova Scotia, Canada, they called in an expert from Virginia who had created an app that helps look for lost children. He uses statistics in survivability and other methods in locating children. See the dedication that we're hearing about, but in my opinion, that is lacking where it was most needed. Why didn't Sumner County call in the marshals? They have not found the child. Sebastian's still missing. He's gone from 15 to 16. My goodness, it's time to bring him home. And they should have called the marshals to help because they haven't located him and that's their expertise. So what in the world would be the con for doing that unless some of it is sloppy investigative work they don't want to share and admit to? In my opinion, that's my opinion. Let's keep going.
Because when you understand the individual you're looking for, your odds of finding that individual are, exponentially. You gain a big value there of potentially finding that individual, no matter how much time has passed. In this particular case, you'd have to do profiles on Sebastian, and then you have to theorize people that might be involved. Who are the key players that are potentially involved? And that goes down to Sebastian's profile. Who are the people in his life, his caregivers, down to his teachers and people who played a role within his life. And each of those individuals have a profile. With all that data and that intelligence, that develops your search area. Because if there was somebody close to him that had access to him and they were in this area or that area and so forth, and on and on and on and on, these things define and develop everything that we do on the ground when we're on the ground. It's not reckless. We're just not going out throwing darts and stuff like that. That comes way down the road after it's really scientifically broken down.
So my question would be, Sebastian did Sumner County profile like this? Would Sebastian be like? Well, he's a planner. He's not a child who would run without shoes. He would take his money. He would take his coat. He would take things that he needed because he plays chess. He's a thinker. Did they strategize like that? Then did they go from his entire circle, which is very small? It's only family. The neighbors didn't really know him. He didn't have friends at school. He had teachers. Okay. So then if they profile them, then they go to those areas and search. Were the areas of Sebastian's, the key players in his life, were their areas searched? Was Mama Sock's home searched? All her homes? Was TB's home searched? All his homes? I say that because they have homes in many names. Was Melissa's home searched? Was Cassie's home searched? She was with them that day. She's family. Was Danny G's home searched? Was Big D's home searched? The list goes on of those who lived in the area. Hi, Black Skies. Hi, Operation Merlin I'm sorry, I always mess that name up and I love it. Operation Merlin Falcon channel. Thank you for being here. So, and he says that if you do that kind of profiling to the missing person and the people close in their lives, that raises such value that you can find people no matter what amount of time goes by. People with close access to him. Lori K, exactly. She was in town. So that's really interesting. And he is amazing. If you want to watch him find Kylie Rodney, we have a goal going tonight to watch it. It's incredible if you haven't seen it. And also another cold case that Doug and his team find someone, and it ends with the family. It ends with the family, and just so grateful that their family member was found after all those years. So thank you, SI officer. But if they didn't do those things, there's no way to find him. If they just like the Canadian police, and I keep bringing them up because they're doing a stellar job, they said the minute those kids were reported missing, they began a missing child search and a missing children investigation. double fold simultaneously so they wouldn't lose any evidence just in case kids hadn't wandered off. Did Sumner County do that? Or did they just go full-fledged search and forget about their training and the Department of Justice and Juvenile Prevention's handbook and all of that in how to investigate when you're called to a home for a missing child? Did they show up like Boy Scouts? Or were they soldiers who did it right? Let's keep going. Hey, Brandy and Indy. I think she'd have to enable it before the live. Enable what, my friends? Enable what? Did the goal, are you guys talking about? Oh, I do have, hold on, I'm sorry. I will put it up. I think she's got it on this video too. Let's keep.
And in this case, you know, obviously there's a lot of speculation, but honestly, it's simply that, you know, there's the rabbit holes are the rabbit holes, but there's been really nothing concrete that has just really made anybody, including the law enforcement agencies and organizations that have been involved, really hone in on one particular individual. That just makes it worse. You know, Sebastian was a very intelligent young man, extremely intelligent young man. There's things that don't add up with his disappearance. And that makes things worse, you know, because the more things that don't add up lead to everything being inconsistent and inaccurate thereafter, because you're working with profiles and theories and actions that are just not based on really good hardcore facts and so forth. It's just, we're just going to go at this. There's been the state, TBI, the FBI, Sumner.
Wow, right? So he said they don't have enough to concretely hone in on one person. I'm devastated to hear this. They better call in the marshals, in my opinion. You guys don't miss the reunion Saturday. We are going up and overhead Saturday. So don't miss the family reunion Saturday. And he said there's information obviously that doesn't add up. We've seen it. And everything's inconsistent and inaccurate because it's all based on lack of good facts. Just like someone who would want to throw law enforcement off intended. Interesting. It's so devastating.
County, they've kind of thrown the kitchen sink at this, and nothing has come from it, which is really, really odd.
I want to go over, Doug, with you a little bit. We talked about these 4 areas, right? I wanted to first talk on one, and I just want to get your kind of dialed in reflections. The fact that he could have walked away. What evidence do we have of that? We have, when you talk about evidence are witness statements, everyone. So when a witness tells you something, when I talk about evidence, it might be wrong evidence, it might be right evidence. In other words, it might be an incorrect statement, but no matter what, when you're looking at all of this is something you're looking at as part of your evidence that you're collecting. And Katie Proudfoot very clearly says he went to his room at about 10:30, I believe it was. She heard a thud. We all know that it was a sound at first. It was a noise. It was a thud. There were various responses to that, which has bothered some people, right? Some, at first she said, she kind of yelled at him, knock it off in there. She's even said things like, well, you know, a teenager that age, I wasn't going to go in and check on him, you know, which I thought was a very bizarre thing to say.
Yeah.
Gives you a chuckle there. But basically, she says there was only one way he would have gone out. It would have been the front door. You know, they have 2 dogs. The dogs didn't alert. She went to bed at midnight. She thinks he was still in there then. And so I'm just going through what evidence we have of that. We also have Chris Proudfoot, who says the same. Now, he wasn't even there purportedly, right? But of course, we all know that there's information that, was he really there? Was he not there? My understanding is, and I do believe he was not there during that evening, as far as we know. I can't find any solid evidence that he was there. And LE finally has said, listen, no indication of foul play. But again, that's with our latest assertions of that, which were April of last year. That's the last time I can find where law enforcement unequivocally said no signs of foul play. So, Doug, that's our information, and we're going to go through these, but that's our information that he walked away. So if he walked away, Doug, and this huge, massive effort was to find him, could he be in a lake, a pond, a stream, a cave?
He could be, yeah. Anything is possible. You know, we can't. In any case, you don't want to make. You don't want to put blinders on and make assumptions, because everything thereafter is inaccurate. You know, but you have to theorize. Anything's possible in this case. He hasn't been found. Until you know the where, we'll never know the why, unless somebody admits to it. It's absolutely possible. I mean, there's evidence that would profile, that would absolutely refute that. You know, the evidence, his personal belongings that he would normally be attached to his body anywhere in public were found at the house. So it would profile that he did not walk away. You know, this is a child that is some unfairly miscategorized this young man due to his public medical disclosures that have come through. But that's extreme intelligence. He's extremely intelligent. If he were to decide to leave at night, there's certain things that would not have been found in that house, I believe. And that's evidence. That's evidence to lead you to believe, you know, that that's not the case. And, you know, law enforcement saying, I mean, you know, I don't have to tell you that. What they say means nothing, you know. I mean, they're not necessarily going to cut. They're very rarely ever going to come out and say anything that's going to put pressure on themselves, especially in a case this big with this much attention. They have to play it very close to the vest. So, you know, hypothetically, they could have all the evidence in the world, just nothing concrete that would shock everybody if the public knew it, but they're not going to tell the public that. And that's very common. Those are common tactics. It also helps them decipher truth from lies when it comes in, or, you know, when they're out in the field, when they're processing data, intelligence, and interviews and tips. That's a big tactic there of not disclosing a lot of evidence and leading the public to believe certain things, and or potential suspects to believe certain things. I personally don't believe he walked away. Could it have been possible? Yeah.
So that's what you know, as we go through these, definitely want to get your, you know, reflections. We know the child abduction rapid deployment team, the CARD team with the FBI, deployed fairly quickly on this case. Now they can't just be there with a snap of the fingers. The CARD team, there are people from all over the country that make up this team, and then they come together for special situations. But we know they were there pretty quickly. And again, I think that speaks toward the view that he didn't just walk away. So let's move on to number 2. And that is abducted by a stranger. In other words, that he got out. And this is what bothers me, Doug, though, with this. He got out with not one camera seeing him and without one dog, not a scent dog for a human scent dog, but a dog for Sebastian Rogers, detecting him leaving. So how does Houdini get out of that house without one camera? And there's 100 hours worth of camera footage. How does that happen, Doug?
I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't. You know. I mean, who am I to say yay or nay? But it doesn't profile like that happen. You know. and I keep saying the word profile because these are the parameters, the mathematical science of, you know, case research that's been developed for a long time, and that, you know, that investigators and case researchers go by, they live by, and they're not foolproof, but they're pretty spot on all the time, you know. And it doesn't profile that happened. There would have been some type of evidence along the way somewhere, and statistically it doesn't profile for that for it either. When you talk about statistics, young white kids it doesn't happen. It's very rare that happens. If you have 10 abductions, maybe 1 or 2 of them might be a young white kid. Other than that, they come from extremely disadvantaged communities, from, you know, these predators prey on families, you know, where they know they think they can get away with it. Yes, random acts happen. There's weirdos everywhere, right? Bad people, but it doesn't profile that way. It doesn't add with statistics. You know, we're not talking about some inner city kid that disappeared, and or from an area that just, you know, didn't have a mom or dad hardly around. They were involved in drugs, and there's none of that in this case. You know, it's all just, you're really, no matter where you want to go with it, it kind of feels like you're just really reaching, you know, which is rare in a case, especially one that's such high profile. Typically, people are all on it, you know. And if you look from what law enforcement has said to even the true crime community, which is amazing at putting cases together, everybody's kind of reaching, you know, good intentioned, and, you know, they all have their feelings. We all do. But I don't think that he just walked away. You know, there would have been like you said, there's so much evidence that's out there that refutes it. And a lot of people get lost when you or I or somebody else says evidence. We're not talking about a courtroom here. We're talking about, you know, pre-courtroom evidence, you know, standings in law enforcement's mind. You know, that's way different than actually in a courtroom, because things that investigators use to determine evidence when trying to solve a case isn't the standard evidence that the you know, regular person that's not involved in law enforcement think of. Evidence could be anything. Like those cameras not showing anything, that's evidence. That evidence points to that not happening. Yeah, it could have happened, could have squeaked through. We see it all the time, but it didn't. So you have to sort of consider that, hey, that's a lot of evidence there, plus all the other things that are out there that they have that say that didn't happen. You know?
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple of these. And
That's a really interesting point. And we talk about that. No evidence is evidence. And he just said that, you know, he's not talking about courtroom evidence. He's talking about the evidence that they use in investigations to solve cases, which is different because they come up with different things. But he said the camera's not showing anything, and there's 100 hours. That's evidence that it didn't pick up anything. Very interesting. Very interesting. You are very welcome, K-Mac. It's so good to see you. Good to see you. Hi, Jen. You back? Did you get your tea? Okay, let's keep going. He's so informative. You know, just some of the things he's saying they just really make sense, right? So he really doesn't think he walked away, and chances are that he doesn't think he got abducted by a stranger. So he's eliminated, walked away, and gotten abducted by a stranger in his mind. Let's keep going.
And you actually touched on one earlier. The fact that Sebastian Rogers purportedly left with no shoes. Now, I've tried to figure out whether he has socks on or no socks on. That seems to be up for some debate, unless somebody in chat has specifically heard Katie or Chris say absolutely no socks, absolutely socks. but we know they say absolutely no shoes. And to revisit the temperatures out there, it wasn't in the 30s. I was mistaken about it being in the 30s. It was still in the 50s. It's cold. It's Tennessee in the winter. And
Yeah.
actually, right after he disappeared on the 25th, temperatures plummeted. And actually, that was part of the reason law enforcement was particularly ramped up and concerned, thinking he could have walked away.
Yeah.
And supposedly, that little keychain flashlight. And to me, the biggest point of information will always be, and Doug, I really want to break this down with you, is the fact that we think at about 3:30 in the morning, lights, two separate, it's not a trash truck, it's not a car, lights leaving the direction of the Proudfoots like this. Here, I'm going to make myself bigger for a minute. Let me make sure I can make myself bigger for a minute. There we go. So coming out like this, and I'll even do it where one goes off camera, this one goes off camera, and then guess what? This one comes back. This one doesn't. This to me is the absolute key to this case. It's either a key meeting, somehow he met somebody, he left and left with somebody, but remember that other flashlight goes back, or he was taken out of that house. But to me, that's the biggest piece of evidence that conflicts that he just walked away.
Yeah. I don't believe he walked away, and that's probably like you said, that's the strongest piece of there is that kind of doesn't add up. I've heard that that's not usual. That was kind of an isolated event. There's no reason that anybody else close to the case in the investigative levels can contribute to that. That happens. We watched film and we saw that in a dozen other places similar. According to what I've heard, that's not the case. That that it's suspicious. Can't get lost in that, and that's something that kind of just draws you back into. All right, well, if you want to consider that definitely wasn't him walking away, and if it was, there's somebody else involved. And what does that mean? It's just really odd, again, with the FBI being involved and their contractors, should I say, nothing being found electronically is really, really odd. Really odd. And at least that's just what I don't know. Maybe they do have stuff. But there's been no action that anybody in the public can pick up on, like they're on somebody's trail, and they haven't released anything publicly to put pressure on any particular person of interest. It's real weird that we're not talking about a case from 10 years ago or 30 years ago or even a year ago that come from some small town that didn't get any coverage. We're talking about a case that has made worldwide coverage, a young child, and searches, really in-depth searches from the very beginning, not only by law enforcement, but by private nonprofits and other organizations and influencers and so forth, right away. And nothing, not a shred of evidence has been found.
What do you think about the fact that he left without shoes? We've talked about how intelligent Sebastian was. That is undeniable. And we've also heard from his father specifically talk about a fire ant situation where he was bit by fire ants and did not want to be without shoes. And then also the fact he was autistic and on the spectrum, what we know about that in terms of people following certain regimens, and he liked to have his shoes on. What's your thoughts on that?
It makes sense. That's a really good, I believed it as soon as I heard it, because it's supported by evidence. Not only evidence, but it's supported by something that is just I don't know what you want to call that. It's physically ingrained at the core of this intelligent young man to always have your freaking shoes on, because he went through a lot of pain. And these hyper intelligent children learn quick, and they know not to make those mistakes, and they adopt these, behaviors, and, I don't know, what do you want to call it, in that realm of world, but that they develop these characteristics to protect themselves moving forward. So it makes sense that he would have always been really, really, sure that he always had something on his feet and protecting his feet. I believe that as soon as I heard it, it feels good. It makes sense. We're not talking about there's a situation that scarred this child, what do you think about that?
No, I think it makes all the sense in the world, and I think it's a big clue. And of course, my mind goes to my experience. And sadly, I know that some people, if somebody is killed, that they don't, or otherwise die, they don't bother putting shoes on them.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to put shoes on a body. It really is. Just think how hard it is to get your live child. And of course, if you put shoes on a 15-year-old,
mm-hmm.
but to get them to put shoes on, it's difficult. And so that's where my mind went. And unfortunately, I just think it's a clue that has to be considered.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to consider it, it definitely leads more to the realm of foul play, for sure. It's either that, or did he have a second pair of shoes that he rarely wore, but he chose to wear them to throw people off? That would have definitely been something that he could have been intelligent enough to do, and probably would have done. But I mean, we don't, nobody has that information,
It's interesting because Katie Proudfoot says, and he kept a very modest room and clothing and things, from what we know from all the interviews of Katie Proudfoot and Christopher Proudfoot. In fact, Chris Proudfoot, and I've heard it for myself with my own ears, got very angry at Sebastian Rogers. This was an abusive household, if you were going to believe some of the child protection documents, some of the admissions from Chris Proudfoot. There's 2 separate admissions about beating Sebastian for 2 different reasons. One, because he didn't have his belt on, and another one for saying something or not being truthful about something, supposedly. And we know, because I heard this with my own ears, that he forced him to clean up his room. And one time when he did not clean it appropriately, he took everything that was in and around that room, on that floor, everything that was out of took it, Doug. And so he had very minimal clothing and shoes, from my understanding. And Katie is adamant when she says that all his shoes were there. I just find that whole thing interesting to consider.
Yeah. It's something that's small, though, that just because it's small right now, just because it doesn't lead anybody anywhere, at least not us and the general public or the true crime community, just one of those things that just leads to a lot of reaching, if you want to take into consideration what she said to support why and all of that, like you just explained, it definitely doesn't point to anything good. Again, it just further supports okay, he should have had shoes. He should have had shoes. Him being missing and him not having his shoes, and something else definitely support he didn't choose to leave.
Yeah,
he wasn't prepared to leave.
Incongruencies, right, Doug? When you, like, as you said, you consider the totality. I want to throw out this concern too. I was very concerned when, at the very beginning of this case, law enforcement did a search of the dump that was related to trash from the Proudfoot neighborhood. So they actually got a search warrant, which
Mhm.
means they did an affidavit containing probable cause to show that there was belief that evidence or some indicia of that crime was at that dump. That's the only way you get a probable cause. And I've talked about this before. You have to convince a prosecutor and you have to swear before a judge who often has a lot of questions that you need to go in and use the Sixth Amendment right, break it, if you will, and let this search warrant let you go into this dump. What do you think, Doug? Have you seen that off? I've only seen it in one other case.
Recently, yes. Recently, yes. We were just involved with one here in Oregon, where there was a young child that went missing immediately. The whole nation got involved, and it sort of felt like this unfolded like a formality, which made sense. Which, if you want to suspect somebody was involved, you have to do that. You have to talk. You cannot wait to do that. If you think a body's been dumped, or you think somebody has disposed of something, you have to get there.
So that's a great point. They have to get to the landfill if they suspect foul play or something has been done. Great point. Great point. I love the perspectives he's bringing in thus far. Now, disclaimer, I haven't watched all of it, and I hear some of you saying there were a few things said that you disagree with. So, not one picture was hung inside that home tells me everything. None on tables or anything. Yeah. So we'll have to, that's interesting. But he says this not having shoes doesn't point, in his opinion, to anything good, because it means Sebastian was either not prepared to leave or didn't leave voluntarily. So let's keep listening to the information that comes out. Thank you so much for being here. If you'd hit that thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. We need to keep Sebastian's name out here. A lot of coverage, and I'm glad other kids are getting coverage too. But let's give Sebastian the thumbs up, if you don't mind, so we can get this out there. Thank you. Yeah, that lack of family pictures, that's interesting. I hadn't really paid attention. That's such a great detail. You all have great theories. You notice details. I'm so impressed.
Because, I mean, how many cases? I mean, there's a never-ending amount of cases where there's evidence to believe that a body was dumped in a dumpster, and it's just never been able to be found. It gets buried. You know, it's really hard to dig through trash once it's buried or dumped over. Time goes by. You have to be really, really quick on that. So, I mean, I think that probably was just a formality. You got to jump through some hoops to get to that. But in a case nowadays, in a case where we have a child that has gone missing, things don't add up. It's suspicious, even though there's nothing concrete. You know, the justice system, with cooperation of the facility there, you know, they were able to get that pushed in right away. They would have done it without the judge's order, but that just protects the chain of evidence. You know, when it comes down to using something that may be found in that dump site later in a prosecution realm, if they didn't go through it the right way, you know, having something signed by the judge then makes that official. Whatever's discovered there, it can't be jeopardized by any defense team or whatnot. It's legit. But I think that that's something we should see more of, a lot more of. It's you got to do it. You got to do it. These trash companies nowadays are able to scientifically tell you where that was dumped down to almost the square inch. And if you get there quick enough, you're easily going to be able to get a team in there and make a discovery before it's too late. The fact that you know, was there something that actually led them there for that? I don't think so. I just think it was more formality and them really going out of their way to make sure that nothing got past them. Nothing. And
You know,
they were able to get there really quickly, and they were able to get to that site, that particular area, And they confirmed they were in the right area, and like it went well to the extent of they were able to confidently rule that out, sort of, you know. You can never be 100% sure, no matter what, no matter who's doing it, obviously.
You know, I appreciate you saying that perspective. I have not necessarily had that perspective, but I like that you're actually have a case you've worked on and you're referencing that, saying, listen, it's more of a formality, or not a formality, but something that if you're going to, if you think a child was taken or abducted, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Look
And-
at that dump.
And all of these facilities, all of them are super cooperative. All of them will let you walk through that front door and go right at it, you know. But when it comes to evidence and so forth, you know, they just got to document things, get things approved so that they're not jeopardized in the future. And it makes sense. You got to do it. You got to do it. Waiting helps. Waiting hurts. I'm sorry, helps. Waiting hurts so much. The lack of action in a lot of these cases are the reason that they weren't solved. Man, I deal with that in almost every case that I solve. Almost every single case that I've been able to come into, no matter how long later, 40 years later, 50, 20 years, 10 years later, it's all really due to a lack of action. You know, not every case, it's very rare that a case gets what Sebastian got. Sebastian,
So true.
it's rare. It's rare. It does not happen. Even though we're talking about a case where it has happened, less than 1% of cases get that attention. It's shocking, you know, how that unfolds. That's a whole nother discussion that leads to a lot of controversial stuff. But it's we've been very fortunate to get this much help, and it's going to produce answers. It's going to definitely produce answers because of everything that has been done. Even though there's no closure to this case yet, everything that has been done, when you find that person or you find the where, it always leads to the why. And then when you look back, you're like, oh, you start to, things are beyond 2020. Everything makes sense. Whether somebody's guilty, whether somebody's not guilty, whether somebody's found alive, everything, all the gaps are just, pieces just fall right into place. It's crazy how that happens. And that's going to happen in this case. We don't know how that's going to happen, but it's definitely going to happen. I feel it.
You know, I love your optimism. I wanted to touch base just for a second on what you said.
Later, 40 years later, 50, 20 years, 10 years later, it's all really due to a lack of action. You know, not every case, it's very rare that a case gets what Sebastian got. Sebastian,
So true.
it's rare. It's rare. It does not happen. Even though we're talking about a case where it has happened, less than 1% of cases get that attention. It's shocking, you know, how that unfolds. That's a whole nother discussion that leads to a lot of controversial stuff. But it's we've been very fortunate to get this much help, and it's going to produce answers. It's going to definitely produce answers because of everything that has been done. Even though there's no closure to this case yet, everything that has been done, when you find that person or you find the where, it always leads to the why. And then when you look back, you're like, oh, you start to, things are beyond 2020. Everything makes sense. Whether somebody's guilty, whether somebody's not guilty, whether somebody's found alive, everything, all the gaps are just, pieces just fall right into place. It's crazy how that happens. And that's going to happen in this case. We don't know how that's going to happen, but it's definitely going to happen. I feel it.
You know, I love your optimism. I wanted to touch base just for a second on what you said about the dump. Just in my experience, whenever you go to that effort, and I will say your words mimic what Craddock said, who's been in charge of the investigation from the beginning with the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, meaning he said, listen, it was routine. We did it because it was, you know, the thing to do. They searched for only hours, you know, not days. And if you look at Quentin Simon, even though they knew exactly where he was dumped. In other words, they knew the exact trash receptacle, if you will, the big green receptacle. They saw her throw the bag in there, believed it was Quentin Simon. The person who picked that up knew exactly where it went. Guess how long it took the FBI ERT team, the best of the best from the ERT realm. Guess how long it took them to find Quentin, knowing exactly where it was, getting out there imminently.
Yeah.
5 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 weeks.
And that was nonstop around the clock. They had night lights, tents, and everything set up out there. Yeah. But and it's hard to judge, why things happen like that from the outside looking in, especially for people that aren't involved with law enforcement or intimately involved in searching and so forth. The average person expects things to be so heroic, like so pure and like guaranteed, and like there's so much I don't know what the word you want to choose for it is.
The CSI effect, right? Like it's
it's not. It is not like that. It is not like that at all, and it's surprising to a lot of people. It is absolute. It still is to me today. Every case that I go on, every discovery that I make, every team that I help make a discovery, it seems so. I'm always dumbfounded, absolutely dumbfounded. And it's just because, we're human beings. We're absolutely human beings. We're not perfect. The internet makes things look good. We place too much emphasis on being perfect, and that holier than thou godlike presence of the government. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing. That's a facade that's in the average person's mind. We're all just human beings, and the police departments and so forth, they're all working with budgets and personnel and people who are just working jobs. What time is it? Is it 5 o'clock? All right, well, you got to go home. Next man up. It's just a normal, repetitious thing, and mistakes happen. And it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of hard work to make those types of discoveries. In that case, they had evidence, so they weren't going to give up. This wasn't we're going to just do this to just rule it out. They had evidence. That really led them to believe that she dumped the body there, and they were not going to give up on that whatsoever. And I don't blame them. Like they knew what they were looking for, and it took a long time for that to happen. Completely different dump type style setup area. They were on it. They were on it in Sebastian's case. Everything that they were finding where they were searching supported that they were searching in the right area, down to, personal items that they were able to verify that were, from neighbors and in that house and so forth. And does that mean that, the timeline is different than what they were working on? Could the dumping could have happened somewhere else? Or it's possible. It's definitely possible. If you want to talk about, why did they search the dump? They didn't find anything in Sebastian's case. What does that mean? But it was just more methodical. Let's cross every single T and dot every single I while we can right now to do it. You have to. And everything that I've seen from them that they've done, we've been able to monitor, has been pretty damn good. And I believe that they've done a great job. I believe, and that says a lot coming from me, which I rarely ever give credit, especially when there's no outcome in a case yet. But I'm involved in a lot of searches that are half-assed and that would just shock you. And this is not a case that I believe, they've really drugged their feet on at all. There's some really highly intelligent people, and there's some contractors that have been involved with agencies that have some very, very strong power, especially when it comes to scrubbing and so forth. Nothing has been found that has led to any type of movement. Nothing.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I'll give law enforcement credit if they did the cursory look at the dump. I just personally, for me, I don't think I could have operated that way if I was the case agent. I wouldn't want just a cursory kind of couple hours. I would have said, please, can we get the FBI there? And my guess is maybe they tried to. We've seen that in a lot of different cases. And unless there is probable cause, really with precise information, like what happened in Quentin Simon's case, you know, the FBI just can't give those kinds of resources. And so that does speak to your view and what Craddock said. This was more routine. I've argued that, but I'm really double thinking it now that maybe sort of a half-assed search is better than no search. He went out there. You know, when I say half-assed, I'm not trying to cast aspersions against him, but I'm saying, for example, the construction site, I think was very important, and that dump went separate to a separate dump. So why not search that one as well? We don't have any evidence or information that he did. Again, it's easy to sit here and armchair quarterback. That's really not my style. But just trying to bring up some things that I agree with you, make me think this involves some sort of either abduction, third party, or something that happened in that home. I just don't think he walked away. I agree with you. The other thing is the FBI putting up the $50,000 reward. You know what? That just doesn't happen ever unless a donor asks to have that done and then the FBI puts it out, which wasn't this case, or the FBI does believe there is foul play. You can get that put out to try to get somebody to cooperate. I think that's where we're at here. I'm just convinced.
Yeah. There's like, in any case like this, there's rumblings of, that type of stuff. And it's rare. That's a big amount, especially Dwayne's offered, over $100,000. And there's another person who's offered some money, and there's been a lot of that, and those people are coming from areas where they've been intimately involved in the case. I hope there's something that they have that leads them to believe that, that's going to be successful. I think it's more of a, they're just trying to do everything they can do, I don't necessarily believe that they have anything. I don't think they have anything. Nothing.
So you think essentially that in this investigation, they have absolutely no evidence, or do you believe they have no evidence that could lead to an arrest right now because there's no probable cause?
No, there's too many investigative tactics that we haven't seen initiated publicly in a weird, how can I say this for the public to understand? And there's a lot of things that law enforcement do when they think they might be somebody that really is culpable nowadays that they will do, because they're monitoring, they're listening, they're watching, and they people will tell on themselves. People will tell on themselves even though they don't even know they're telling on themselves, especially when you have analysts and profilers that are in the background watching and they know certain things. They're just trying to put their finger on something. But if they can get that to move, they can put their finger on it. It hasn't been done. We would have read that and we just haven't really been.
I'm sorry, I do have to disagree with him. My sources that were there, around there, heard people, they overheard. There was people in that command center watching footage. They saw a 3 a.m. dark sedan, and they knew he did not leave on his own. And that it wasn't a stranger who just crime of opportunity randomly took him. So I do tend to disagree there. you know, he may not have heard that yet, or because law enforcement hasn't said that, but they've known that. And they had to verify kidnapping to TBI for that Amber Alert. Has nothing to do with having a disability. I mean, it does. That's one of the criteria. But they have to confirm kidnapping. So they had that footage. What happened to that footage? What happened to the footage? I hope they still have it. I hope they still have the glasses that were found, even if they don't think they're his. They should be tested for DNA. Everything they were told in the beginning, in my opinion, was inaccurate. And hopefully they started an investigation day one, and CP and KP are just not aware that they did forensics and all of that. Let's keep going. But it's very disheartening for him to say he doesn't think they have anything. Not for him to say it, to hear it. How do you guys feel about that? That's really disheartening. I agree with you. I agree with you, Operation Merlin. I do. They have, I mean, they have to, you guys. Yes, Becky, thank you. The pictures we've seen. Remember the one that we showed just the other day with the red images? We could clearly see the hairline, the ear, the trunk open, the tire of the car. Y'all, that's there. Is it? I'm hoping that everyone's, you know, that we're going to get close, because, and that Doug just doesn't know about the pictures and stuff. Right? Makes me really nervous. Let's keep going.
Been able to, you know, I haven't been able to, you know, and I'm also not intimately involved in the case. How could I say this for the public to understand? And there's a lot of things that law enforcement do when they think they might be somebody that really is culpable nowadays, that they will do, because they're monitoring, they're listening, they're watching, and they you know, people will tell on themselves. People will tell on themselves even though they don't even know they're telling on themselves, especially when you have analysts and profilers that are in the background watching, and they know certain things. They're just trying to put their finger on something. But if they can get that to move, they can put their finger on it. It hasn't been done. It hasn't been done. We would have read that and we just haven't really been able to, you know. I haven't been able to, you know, and I'm also not intimately involved in the case like a lot of people are, but I haven't seen it at all. I would like to think that, you know, that would have been done. That would be being done right now. And it's a new age type of thing that happens a lot.
No, I agree with you. And I think that they are dissecting every word that Katie Proudfoot says. And I say that, and she hasn't said a lot, but in her interview she's given, because again, she was the last one to see him. She had opportunity. She had every chance to do something, right? So for that reason, they're going to look at her. And secondarily, you know, the last time she spoke, and I brought this up many times, she made the statement. She said Sebastian would have been 16, and then corrected herself and said, took this deep breath that she does often when hard her, or she's thinking, and she goes,
yeah,
is 16, you know. And it's so indicative, in my opinion, when I've watched her, and I've watched every second of everything she said multiple times, there is this pattern, and it gives me pause. But that's not enough probable cause. And you all up to, there's still not enough probable cause.
Oh no, definitely not, nowhere near enough probable cause or circumstantial anything. But behavior, when you're profiling and you're analyzing somebody's behaviors, their words, their mannerisms, and so forth, past tense says a lot. People don't think in past tense to when their children go missing until they know. Doesn't happen. That's not natural.
Yeah, exactly.
It's alarming when somebody does that, and it's happened in several cases that I've been really close to. And I tell you what, they're all guilty when that happens. You could also say the same thing, like weird people get in front of a camera and it becomes blown out of proportion too. So, I mean, is she just a weird, awkward person in front of a camera? She doesn't know how to communicate. She hasn't been coached by advocates properly, like a lot of families do. That's a thing. When people's children go missing, or they have a murder close to them, or anything where they're going to be thrusted into the public limelight, or possibly in question of committing a crime, or whatever, there's advocates that help these families, and for a really good reason, because certain people just look bad.
Some of, like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, has a lot of resources for families and advocates, but they have to accept that assistance, right? So I don't know if she was prepped for the media, but what I do know is he's right. It is alarming, the past tense talk. Did you hear what he said? All his cases, they've all been guilty. So I'm very discouraged to hear that they don't even, now it says they don't even have anything circumstantial, nowhere even near circumstantial. But see, you guys have to remember, that's the opposite of what Seth was shown and told. Remember? Mountains of evidence. So that's the opposite. So one of them isn't, one of them isn't accurate here. Either we have mountains of evidence and they just have that one piece they're trying to figure out, or we have virtually absolutely nothing. And what the heck happened to in my opinion, the flashlight video, the images of people carrying people in the backyard, the audio, doors locked, all of the above. I mean, we could go on, right? Let alone the interviews, the past tense, the misleading interviews, the misleading information, ballparking figures. Oh, about then giving 3-hour windows of when they heard the noise, CP doing it, all of that stuff. It's so sad that it's too upsetting, isn't it? So it better have, I'm hoping that it wasn't another Summer Wells, Ronnie Lawson deal. And I hope they have those mountains of evidence, because the world is watching and the world is not going to be quiet. That's just how I feel. You form your own opinion. But if they don't have the things that we believe they should have, if they've got really, truly nothing, then we need someone else to investigate this case. My opinion. You can tell me 1,000 times a day that Eric Craddock is doing a fabulous job. And I can tell you 1,000 times a day, he doesn't even say his name. He does not speak to his community. He does not make posts about him. Right?
And no matter what, you get a person who has a shaky past or something, nobody's perfect, and you put that in the limelight and boom, now they're guilty. Now all these resources and focus and just get blown out of proportion, and the case is way off track. So you have a lot of advocates that get out there and they get with these families, properly coach them on what to say, what not to say, how to say things. Typically, a lot of these advocates only are working with people who are innocent, right? But she doesn't appear to have ever had anybody like really good working with her, because she hasn't made herself look good. But what does that mean?
No,
You know, what does that mean? You know, because you know, I see people all the time where it's back and forth with the Proudfoots, where it's like, oh, that doesn't look good. It's really bad, and you know, you got to go on it when we're on the outside looking in, and then another wave comes, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, oh, all right, well, she's kind of off the radar on the outside now, or he's off the radar, and oh, now he's back in the radar. It's like a wave. It's like a tide. It keeps coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And that's normal. That is absolutely normal. Big time. Don't you think?
yeah. In fact, I was going to say, you could take, 10 of us and line us all up, and actually you can look on YouTube and probably do that and get, what you say, what I say, what different behavioralists think, what Pat Brown thinks, what all these different people think. And it might even line up, I don't know, 60-40 right now, or 70-30, whether she's telling the truth or not. Because at the end of the day, it's an opinion and it's based on our experience. And because we all have different experiences, we may read it differently. But we also know it is not absolute truth. It's something sort of we use on the back end, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is true that Sebastian is gone from us, which we don't want to say, but let's just say this hypothetically. And it is traced back to, as an example, Katie Proudfoot. And then we take all these things she said, and then we say, see, she said this, but you can't do it the other way. In other words, say, she said this, this, and this, so it must be this. You can't jump to that without all the physical proof and everything you need. But it doesn't mean that people in the true crime community aren't going to cuss and discuss.
Oh, yeah, heck yeah.
Her movement, how she says things.
Yeah.
That's what we do here.
No, absolutely. We are living in we are living in the best time there has ever been. And if you want to talk about the true crime community is one of the biggest blessings to Americans, to their families. It's a beautiful thing. People could talk about all the bad things they want all day long, but no matter what, there's far more good. Like, it doesn't even come close than the bad that comes from the true crime community. The true crime community is so awesome. There's so many cases that are solved. There's so much support that none of these families would have ever, if it wasn't for the true crime community. And, you know, a lot of people expect me to say things otherwise, but absolutely not. I love the true crime community, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a believer in it. I see it, and I have been involved, deeply in the true crime community within social media, now off social media, and at the highest levels of all of this stuff. And I see the impact it makes, and law enforcement likes it too. You're not gonna say that publicly, but it helps. It definitely helps when you have tens of thousands of investigators theorizing and digging and talking to people and calling people. It can complicate some things, but it's all good. It all leads to good things happening. Before the internet, there was never any of this extra pressure. Crimes were easy to commit and get away with. Crimes were so much easier forgotten about. Victims were forgotten about. Perpetrators were forgotten about. And there's less of that happens nowadays. A lot less than that. It's still a very, very broken system when it comes to, families and people that are missing, getting help, being a voice for the voiceless, and all of that whole dynamic. Still very, very broken, but the true crime community has definitely helped all of it. It's helped keep this case alive, and probably you could make an argument that it kind of created this case into what it is right now for us to even be talking about it. Honestly, where there's pressure, there's resources applied. Definitely, that's how departments are able to. It's all bureaucracy. When they're sitting in their meetings approving budgets, and when they're sitting in, early morning meetings talking about what's going to happen for the week and so forth. It's all coming from a pressure perspective. Where's the pressure? What is the media talking about? What is the image? What are the optics is the technical term. What are the optics right now? And those are the things that are always dictate the resources that are applied to the case. And true crime community has kept the optics heavy on this particular case. And that's how you get results. That's what it takes, you know. We've seen that in Gabby Petito case. You've seen that in Kylie Rodney case. Had the true crime community not done that with Kylie Rodney, I would have never taken our team there to go and search. I mean, I probably would have never even heard of the case. And all these other cases.
It's phenomenal to watch him find her.
Keeps the true crime community
Absolutely
is larger than
phenomenal.
media. Just hasn't been organized yet, should I say. And that's a good reason. It shouldn't be organized. It's all individual. It's got a life of its own.
Yeah, no, I totally agree about the true crime community. I love it. I never, ever thought in my retirement I would have anything to do with social media. That it all was not on my radar, working, the job that I work and everything. It never even occurred to me. I always tease, I completely blame Brian Inton for my involvement. Oh, you got to get on Twitter. Like, Twitter? I don't need to get on Twitter. It took him months to finally convince me.
Yeah. These are tools. I like what Caroline said there that you just had up. She believes Sebastian was already out of state. I don't necessarily know where she was going with that, but kind of supports what I believe. Sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you believe at the end of the day with what little we know?
Drum roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna be everywhere on the internet as soon as I say it. I believe Sebastian's alive.
I love that.
I believe Sebastian is alive.
Yay!
I'm not gonna go into why I believe that, but I that's my belief. It's absolutely my belief. Doesn't mean anything, but I believe he's alive. I believe he'll be found alive too.
I love that you say that.
And it refutes everything. It goes against everything. If you want to take into consideration that there is any evidence that we've already discussed and said was evidence, it goes against all of that.
Well,
but it profiles the case. Technically profiles.
It profiles bad.
It does, and it goes against that. I hope that I'm right. I really hope that I'm right. Sad, very, very, very sad thing. That's my belief. It's my belief, and
wow.
I hope he's found soon.
I love that. The last question I have for you, and I really appreciate you,
Caroline, was that you
joining us? We
Caroline,
love you.
Are you in here
on the show?
Thank you.
Great. You're a breath of kind of fresh air in a way, because you're just honest. You got that big beard. You speak diligently.
I'm just unorthodox, right? I don't come from the law enforcement community, but I produce results. And that's what matters. That's what matters. And I'm learning. I don't know it all, and I don't ever act like I know it all. And I'm always learning as I'm going, though. Everything I do, I'm learning. Everything I do right, I'm learning. Everything I do wrong, I'm learning. Every case, every search, every investigation, every training session that we hold. It's crazy because I sit with entire state departments, CART team, and I'll do training. And I learn more from them than they learn from me, and I love it because it does nothing but make what I do more impactful. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
I'm glad you can see these. I'm
reading your comment. That's why it says Seth was at work in a prison. He's not involved.
Both sided here. Put up some of the different comments, because I can see we have a lot of people in chat. Some people that believe the Proudfoots are responsible. Some people believe that Seth are responsible, and then people who think none of them are responsible. So I'm trying to throw up different things for you to see. I mean, Seth wasn't there, so unless he, got somebody else to do it,
I don't believe either Seth or Chris Proudfoot were there that I have any knowledge of.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I know Seth was working. I've seen his timesheets. He
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't the only, I'm not saying this to get off track or anything, but Sumner County is not a stranger to missing people and people that haven't been found as well either. There's quite a few people that have never been found out of Sumner County, and you can say that for any county, right? But the Sumner County's got some pretty unique
Yes, they do.
crimes that have never been solved, people that have never been found, and
We'll go over that.
I don't know what you want to contribute that to, but there's definitely there's something there. Does that mean that any of them are connected? Absolutely not. There's none of that. But Sumner County has had a very bad run with cases in this nature.
Well, and I really worry about this case going to, and I'm glad you're bringing, I just love this freshness you're bringing, because I do worry that this is slipping to the Summer Wells type status where we will never, ever know, because I just
definitely not a Summer Wells status. Summer Wells is just sucks, when you get people that you really wholeheartedly believe are involved and nothing's done. That's I have very controversial opinions on that type of stuff. I think that if there's a threshold that is met within a case and evidence surpasses that threshold of suspicion, I mean, there should be investigative interrogation tactics that are employed, especially when it comes to our children. Highly controversial statement, right? Mm-hmm. But that should be a thing, and a lot of these cases would be solved, simple to solve, because there's a lot of cases where anybody who has a brain knows, oh well, that person did it or those people did it.
Amen.
But nothing's being done because there's not enough for a gavel to come down on it. Yeah, but we don't operate like that in the rest of the world. So why do we operate like that right here? Why do we operate like that right here? When it comes to our children and our women.
It's true.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, but I did want to give a quick update just on sort of peripheral parts of what's been going on. I really, Doug, as you know, I do not get involved in those crime channels, the channels that are on there just to stir the pot, and there's screaming, yelling, cussing, it's so ridiculous. I can't even watch it. The only time I ever check in on something is when I see that Chris Proudfoot is on or Katie Proudfoot, and I try to skip to see what they have to say. But recently Chris Proudfoot absolutely lost his mind on a show. I haven't really talked about it because I don't think it's definitely, it's evidentiary, except like I said, in the background, right? If somehow it's found out he's involved, then everybody's going to run back and look at going up.
Yeah. You got to understand these people have lost their child. No matter who they are as a person, no matter how good or bad these people were or weren't, they lost their child, and you can never expect an individual to act correctly, to act normal. There is no normal. There's no rule book for this stuff. There's no rule book to what you're supposed to do when you lose a child. Totality, I think Chris's behavior has been amazing, minus that incident and, some other stretches. It's all normal. You know what I mean? Everybody has a breaking point. Everybody has, that point where they're just fed up and they can't take no more, and things come out awkwardly. None of these families or individuals are trained speakers that have sat through sessions and classes of, public speaking and so forth to have the forethought to say things correctly and all of that, hoopla. They're just normal people. Normal people are gonna in front of a camera aren't going to seem that normal. You're going to find flaws in everybody, no matter how much you critique them. And also, the more you're in front of a camera, the worse it is.
The more mistakes you make, for sure.
Absolutely. We have volunteers that work with a lot of the families when it comes to media advocacy and so forth at United Search Corps. And that is arguably one of our biggest things that we go through with family is everything is controlled publicly, everything, because it becomes something that it does not need to be. Advocacy.
Chrissy, are you talking about in Sumner County? Did you find a body in Sumner County? Where were you? Sorry to stop that, you all. There's a comment here by Chrissy that says, I found a body, but no one else is jumping on it. You're very welcome, Marie McCall. Thank you. And then let's see here. What was that? I sent to TBI, Dogs Team, and Sumner County. Found it in Black Mountain. Is that in Tennessee? Wow. Is Black Mountain in Tennessee? Sorry, you all. Hold on, I'm looking something up. Oh, there is Black Mountain, Tennessee. Okay. It is west of Knoxville. It's west of Knoxville. Wow. Okay. So has anyone? Yeah, I was going to ask. Do you have anything that you can tell us as far? Was it a male? Was it a female? Was it condition? Look like someone been missing for a long time or just in the last few days? Please don't mention other creators in the chat. Huh. You don't know. Wow, I wonder if, Chrissy, is this in the storage container? It was in a storage container? Was it an adult? Was it a child? Chrissy, would you be so willing to call in so I can just flat out ask you? If you are, here you go. That's wow. What were you doing when you encountered it, Chrissy? That must have been very kind of spooky, unnervy. Wow. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Chrissy, if you want to call or put in information in the chat, I'll come back to it. Oh, skeleton. Oh, my goodness. Wow, Chrissy. Were you like in the woods or, was it? My goodness, that would be. DJS wants to know if that's where the Sebastian size. Wow. Oh my. Sorry, you all. I just took a little bite of my dinner. Okay. Wow. Hello, NHGG. In my opinion, too, Joan. Did you see it or see it on a Google search? Oh. No, so I think she said she found a body. Were you actually there? Or did you find it? Oh, I see what you're saying. Did you find it in Google Earth or something? Okay, we'll keep going. And then I'll check the chat, okay, in a second. Wow, thank you for sharing that with it in a storage container about 5'5". Huh. It was on Google Earth? Okay, I'll be back. Let's keep going. Wow.
These families having appropriate advocacy is really, really important. True crime community doesn't like that, you know, because it's also good when you get weirdos out here that have actually done something wrong. You let them put their foot in their mouth, you know, that's a good thing. That's what you want them to do. That's what we're all waiting for, right?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. People love that drama piece of it. But I will say too, that if you look at, say, the Petitos, Kylie Rodney's family, many other missing families, they don't need coached. They don't need help because they speak so from the heart.
Yeah.
And you can feel their love, their emotion, their sense of loss. And so I might have to disagree with you about Chris Proudfoot. I think he has not handled himself very appropriately. I think he could have used a coach. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he could have, but you know,
Chris, meaning the stepdad, not Seth.
Yeah. I know.
Coaching too. Seth needed coaching too. You know, anything too bad. But I love how you see the world. You know, these cases more pragmatically, not emotionally, but just looking at all the ways different people have acted in missing children cases that you've seen.
I have to, because you know, I'm really good at searching, but searching is just it's something that's going to happen in any case, no matter what that I do. But it's like 1% of what I really do. You know, I'm really good at that. So when that comes time for that to unfold and those dynamics play out with boots on the ground, and when we're out there, it's going to happen the way it happens. You know, it's methodical, it's calculated. But what it takes to actually get there is way deeper than anybody could even imagine, especially nowadays. And you gotta keep an even head. I've been wrong so many times and it comes from learning, where I theorize or I think something, and then, like I said earlier, when I find the where, it kind of fills in the why, and I can't count how many times I've actually been wrong. Everybody involved in the case has been wrong. So you learn to kind of how to operate on a level that's just, all right, yeah, I'm picking that up. I'm putting that together. I see that puzzle, but not allowing it to sway me. You know, there's a fluidity that has to be kept in order for me to do what I do. There's a lot of also internal like intuition that's involved when we're out there. I'm out there, boots on the ground, or I'm working with a family. A lot of stuff that really I can't even describe, you know. And when I internalize too many things on a really deep level, it just throws all that off, you know. I different shelves that I'm putting everything on, and those shelves are within sight and fall into play, but they're not dictating anything whatsoever.
So we have a question for you, Doug. Have you ever spoken with narc divers about this case or any other case for that matter?
No, I don't even. Well, I don't know who they are, other than I've seen stuff on the internet in relation to this search. But I have no clue like who they are, what they've done, or anything like that.
Okay, and secondarily, Doug, getting back on track with what I love, which is your expert search skills. Any thought about going and taking a look at the waterways near Sebastian? Because I'm if you do.
So I can't say what I have done and what I haven't done, or what I will say is no search is accurate unless you find somebody. There's no entity, no person, no being, no organization that can go into somewhere, search something, and say that it's clear when you're involving land, terrain, water, wooded areas, and you're looking for just a body. That doesn't exist, So with that being said, everything that has been done means absolutely nothing. Means absolutely nothing. I've solved dozens of cold cases, right? One or two of the cases that I have solved, three, all the rest of them have always been in areas that other agencies have searched. Sometimes dozens of agencies have searched right where they have searched. So I don't ever consider anything because it's been searched. There are searches that I revisit.
That happened with the Kylie Rodney case. They went to an area that was told to them that had been searched. And lo and behold, they found Kylie's car. Isn't that just crazy? So did you hear where he says the search means nothing, right? Because if you don't find the body, it could be there, whether it's wood, land, or water. Let's hear what he has to say about solving cold cases that law enforcement didn't solve.
Visit where I search things that I've already searched. It's just a process. You have to be methodical. You have to be relentless. You literally have to be willing to put in the work on a level that is extremely unique if you expect to produce results that nobody else has produced. Bottom line. And searching is not foolproof. We're not searching a marble floor for a soccer ball. It's gonna stick out.
I like that.
It's far from that. It's beyond a needle in a haystack. It's a grain of a sand on a beach on another planet. That is the concept when you're looking for a body. And if you want to take into consideration somebody did something with this young man's body, it's even exponentially more drastic than what I just explained. It's hard. It's really, really hard. I believe he's alive. And if he's not alive, I believe he'll be found right there, right where everybody was searching.
I talk often about the last missing case I ever had as an agent, and it was an autistic boy, 6 years old, really hit hard because I had a 6-year-old at the time. And when I was put in charge of the command post, where I came in and everybody's already been searching, all the locals are there just hours after everything happened. And the first thing I said was, where are we at with the water searches, which is, that's the number one place you're going to look for an autistic young boy.
Yep.
So, you're running the search part of everything. You're sending everybody out to continuing the canvas of the neighborhoods. You're involved in polygraphs with the family. It's a huge scene of literally hundreds of people helping and trying to find this young boy. And the next day we organized from the state all these dive crews. Please, anybody and everybody, that was just a task. Get every dive. Guess where we found him? We found him just at the neighbor's pond. It had already been searched.
Yeah.
So, like you said,
in hindsight, in hindsight, Jen, like if you want to say that he's going to be found somewhere and something bad has happened, he's no longer with us, it's going to be right there. It's going to be right there where everybody has searched. And that's kind of the way it always is, where it's like, wow, like it's unbelievable where it happens like that. It actually happens like that. Nobody's expecting it. In this case, when nothing makes sense, so much has been done. If something has happened, he's not with us, he's right there. He's absolutely right there. I don't think so. I'm not saying that. I believe I say that because I believe he's alive. I believe he's alive. But I will say that if something has happened to him, it's not far. He's right there where everybody was searching. Yeah. I mean, it's two different parallels in the same sentence out of the same mouth, but that's just real talk. That's what you get. Hopefully he'll be found alive. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it'll happen sooner than everybody thinks too.
Right.
I think that's why the there's been over $250,000 worth of money thrown around out there.
Yeah. Actually, right now, I just got a email today that they are up to 500,000.
Really?
From dog. And
okay. All right.
So, and people can argue all they want, oh, it's not legitimate, this and that. Listen, he's putting it out there. I believe in it.
Oh, Dwayne's reward is absolutely real. And if somebody comes forward and satisfies the requirements, it will absolutely be paid out. Absolutely be paid out. He's not lying. He's not fabricating. Doesn't have to. He's got the people in his arena that have far more money than that. Far more money than that.
Dog and private funders. That's
yeah. Like when the dog has been around for decades. He's been involved in tens of thousands of cases, and he's done a lot of good in the world. And he's got some people in his corner that will back him when it comes to producing results like that. There are people that will back you into making things happen when it needs to happen, and he's got those people more so than the government does. It's just the way private money works.
It is, and I'm hopeful, like you, that maybe he'll be found. I say I'm hopeful. I always keep hope, but I'm a statistics girl.
Yeah.
So it's hard to truly get down.
Well, you have to be. You spent your whole career is designed on analytics. It's math is math for a reason. And things that 1 + 1 is 2. That's a system that is really hard not to. You can't sway from it. It happens though. Sometimes science disproves it. Rare, but it's all speculation. It's all just speculation, unfortunately. It'd be nice if we didn't have this situation. We didn't have to sit here talking about, beautiful young man who's nowhere to be found, and nothing, absolutely nothing. That's the biggest, most shocking thing in this is that there's nothing. It's 2024, 2025 now, and nothing. There's a lot of investigative tools that are utilized nowadays when when somebody's suspected of a crime like this. There's so many different techniques that are really, really good at putting people in areas, putting devices in areas. There's a lot of breadcrumbs that are dropped by everybody, everywhere, no matter where they go, and nothing anybody can do about it. And they're discoverable really easily. And there's been none of that they've stated publicly. I would think like if they really believe somebody has something to do with it, there'd be a different approach publicly on the case, because there's pressure. Those optics, back to that optics thing that we were talking about, there's pressure on them. They don't want to deal with this case. Nobody does. This is like the worst nightmare for departments. This is Sumner County's worst nightmare. This is TBI's worst nightmare. The FBI's worst nightmare, to be involved in a case and they can't do anything about it. They don't want to be in that position, and they definitely don't want to be in that position when the public won't let it die. And that's where this becomes the catalyst of all of that, because unfortunately, if there isn't any of this, that optics, that pressure doesn't continue at all. And those discussions, those resources get put to other cases, the new case, the next case, the next event, or you name it. And that's just the way it goes. And the only way that case is ever revisited, unless that family member comes and asks, hey, what about my loved one? Oh, well, maybe there's not even a detective assigned to it anymore.
That's exactly what happens. And we're going to keep his name out there. We're going to keep his face out there. I wanted to thank the person who did some of these pictures. It's Rod Booth. And I appreciate some of these graphics he did.
The one you're showing right now?
Yeah, he did.
I like that.
For us, I found these when I was looking throughout social media. I know that he created these for sure, but I saw some of these, and I think they're lovely. Look at this one. They took the pictures that we posted, and he superimposed that. I thought it looked really good, and I'd never seen these before. So I wanted to have some special pictures up. There's somebody that's actually in the true crime community that I've worked with for about 2.5 years. And we've been so involved in social media on all these missing cases. We came together at Gabby Petito. And believe it or not, over this case, Doug, over people getting so upset. You can have we've had 2 different opinions on this show, Doug. And you're not ready to disown me or hate me or scream at me. And I'm not ready to do that. I tell everybody in law enforcement, when we sit around and we call it cutting up a case, we cut up a case in the bullpen, we're all talking about it. Nobody gets mad and storms out. You're going to have different opinions, and you cut through them and see what lends itself. We don't have to agree on everything. But anyway, I lost him as a friend in the true crime community because, we have some different opinions on this case, and it's so ridiculous. But he was the one that recommended I show pictures. And the only reason I hadn't, Doug, was I just hadn't taken the time to learn how to do all this, because you have to get them, you have to download them, on your computer, and then you have to upload everything and then put them on. And because of him, even though he's angry and not speaking to me, I am doing this, and I'm so glad, because I would have never done it but for him suggesting it. So
shame on him. Shame on him. I don't know who you're talking about, but shame.
You hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? You can hear me now? Okay, good. I went out and I went back in. Wonderful. Okay, everyone. So some parts of what thanks for hanging in there for me. I don't know what button I hit or what. Some parts of what he said left me a little, wind out of the wind out of my sails, but he does believe Sebastian's alive. And that's enough for me. Prayers up. Thank you all for being here. You're amazing, amazing community. I am ending my school year tomorrow. So I will be catching up on emails and get to spend a whole bunch of time with you all. So school's out tomorrow at noon. I will see you all tomorrow and have a wonderful day. And I will be returning emails. Give me some time to catch up. But I appreciate everything you all have to say. And I didn't want you to think I didn't care when you reach out to me. So good to see you all, and have a great night. Prayers up for Sebastian, for everyone looking, and may he be alive. Yes, Karen Powers, I'm so excited. I'll get to just jump on here and spend time with you all. We can do trials. So I'll talk to you all soon, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Sassy. Thank you, K-Mac, Jenny, Machete, Little Red, Michelle Scott, Sassy, Gypsy, all of my mods that are here. I so appreciate the way you run this chat. Without you, I couldn't get through a live. I'm certain of it. So I truly appreciate all of you, and I hope I'm not forgetting any of you that are in the house tonight. But Michelle Scott, Little Red, I just appreciate all of you. Jen in Georgia, have a wonderful night, and I will see you all tomorrow. We are going to bring him home. Good night, Sebastian's Army. I bet he does have a profiler, Rusty Pipes. He has a team. I bet Dog does do the profiling. But you know what's going to be fun? We could do that for one of our next lives, is do the profiling. Maybe I'll look into how to get some of that done. Maybe Caroline can help me out a little bit. See you later, friends. Have a great night.